Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. And today, by popular demand, I will be talking about my top 10 all-time favorite power metal albums. I don't normally talk about power metal here on the Metal Meltdown because I'm not really a huge fan of power metal. With a few exceptions, most of which we'll be talking about today, I just find the genre to be a little bit too ridiculous for my liking. I think that a lot of power metal is kind of generic and boring and cheesy and stupid. Ironically though, because I don't normally talk about power metal, because I'm not a huge fan of it, because my thoughts and feelings on the genre are so well documented at this point, this has become one of the most highly requested videos for the Metal Meltdown to make. It is a normal fucking thing for people to ask me, "Hey Robert, what are your favorite power metal albums? When's that top 10 favorite best power metal albums video coming out? You ever gonna do a video about power metal?" Yes, I am! Right now! You win! God damn it! We do live streams and drinking games and collaborations, and we do interviews with members of Cannibal Corpse and Cattle Decapitation and the Black Dahlia Murder and Autopsy and Deathclock and Voivod and Gwar, but none of that's good enough because it's not power metal. It's not power metal. Now don't get me wrong, I love the enthusiasm, I love the energy, but also, kindly shut the fuck up now, please! Anna, what's your favorite power metal album? Good choice.
Yeah.
That's an excellent fucking choice. Excellent. Great job. Alright, my turn now, I guess. As per the norm with any top 10 list here on the Metal Meltdown, I'm just going to be talking about these albums in order of release. I don't think I really have a number one favorite power metal album, but if at some point in this video we reach an album and I feel, hey, this is my all-time favorite number one album, I'll just fucking tell you. Also, to any power metal aficionados and connoisseurs out there, I'm well aware that, like, these are all pretty well-known picks. I'm well aware of that. I actively chose not to dig deep into the underground because I did not want to spend that much time listening to power metal. I am picking the albums that I like, and there's a very good chance that if you're even a casual power metal listener, you'll already know, like, 7 or 8 of the albums in this top 10. And I don't give a shit. You asked for my top 10 favorite power metal albums, not my favorite top 10 super underground, super obscure power metal albums, alright? Fucking deal with it. First up, we have a self-titled debut album from Crimson Glory released in October of 1986 via Par and Roadrunner Records. I know that Crimson Glory have a pretty solid kind of cult-ish following. It's got its dedicated fans and followers and such, but I feel like, generally speaking, Crimson Glory is still very underrated. Like, when I think about some of the best early American power metal ever, like, my brain almost immediately goes to Crimson Glory every single time, especially with this album. Don't get me wrong, the Sophomore Transcendence is an excellent record as well. It's very well polished, and it's also a lot more progressive and ambitious. But I just kind of find myself preferring this, because this has all the epic highs and powerful moments that I expect of, well, epic American power metal. The guitar work consistently shimmers and soars and shreds and shines. Vocal work, courtesy of Midnight, absolutely incredible. His high-pitched wailing screams on Queen of the Masquerade especially, Jesus Christ, one of the best metal vocal performances ever in my opinion. Love stuff like Heart of Steel and Dragon Lady as well, the latter of which I would argue is one of the catchiest, like, power metal songs ever. Like, it just has this totally infectious, badass fucking hook and melody that, like, it's wedged up in here like a crown in Homer Simpson's brain. I think I remember hearing that and Queen of the Masquerade for the first time years ago in, like, Brutal Legend or some shit like that. Like, and it was just, like, this boom, like, mind-blowing moment. Like, oh my god. Lost Reflection as well closes this whole thing out on, like, a weirder but still really beautiful kind of note. as Midnight puts in this more deranged, kind of claustrophobic, schizophrenic kind of vocal performance. It's more theatrical, it's more dramatic. I feel like there might be a little bit of debate as to whether or not Crimson Glory are fully power metal, because they're also often seen as pioneers of progressive metal, and sure, I'll give you Transcendence. That's definitely a prog metal record. But this feels more like power metal to me. And even if it isn't, then fuck it, it's my list, so cry about it. I love it. Next up, we have Hall of the Mountain King from Savatage, released in September 1987 via Atlantic Records. I'm not gonna lie, it was a close call between this and Gutter Ballet, but I'm going Hall of the Mountain King because it's just a much more triumphant and iconic album. Like, I love the size and the scale of this album. Like, it feels massive and triumphant. It has so much mystery and madness and chaos to it. Riffs and drums consistently crack and roar like thunder and lightning. The vocals are consistently monstrous and epic, as if the Mountain King himself is consistently speaking to you throughout the album, commanding you, giving you orders, and there's some amazing classical and progressive influence woven throughout this as well that gives it this really regal and urgent feel. Like, this album just feels big. This album feels big and epic and important, not because it's a power metal album, but because it's big and epic and important. And it makes for some amazing material like Strange Wings, Beyond the Doors to the Dark, Devastation, White Witch, The Price You Pay, and of course, the double whammy of The Prelude to Madness and the album's amazing title track, Hall of the Mountain King, which straight up one of the best power metal songs ever. One of the best metal songs ever. Like, that main riff and melody is just so fucking badass. That chorus is fucking incredible. There's some awesome guitar pyrotechnics all through here. If you are not screaming and yelling and banging your head and pounding back beer with this fucking thing, I don't know what to fucking tell you, man. I don't know if I trust you. If I'm not mistaken, this was another song that I heard for the first time in, like, Brutal Legend back in the day. Oh, god damn it. Shout out to Brutal Legend, I guess. I don't know. Alright, I'm kind of cheating with this next pick, not gonna lie, because we're not technically talking about one album. We're talking about two albums that together make up one album. And as tempting as it is to try to favor one half over the other, that just seems kind of silly to me. Like, imagine if I cut a fucking hamburger in half, and I go, alright, tell me which half is your favorite. Like, motherfucker, it doesn't matter. It's the same fucking hamburger. Like, two halves of the same whole fucking sandwich. Why'd you cut it in half to begin with? That was so unnecessary. Did you think I was sharing this with you? The fuck's the matter with you? I paid for this fucking hamburger. Fuck you. Plus, also, my list, my rules. So, fuck it. 2 birds, 1 stone. 2 albums, 1 hamburger. I don't give a shit. The first of these albums is Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 from Helloween, released in May 1987. And the second of these albums is Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2, released in August 1988, both through Noise Records. As far as classic European power metal is concerned, there's no band that does it better than Helloween, and no pair of albums that does it better than The Keeper of the Seven Keys Parts 1 and 2. Filled with all the fantasy and spectacle and grandeur that you expect of, well, frankly, any power metal album, but especially European power metal, but also nowhere near as safe or as saturated or as silly as some other stuff that would pop up over the years, no doubt thanks to Keeper of the Seven Keys. There's a lot of momentum and enthusiasm to these albums. There's a lot of speed, high-spirited, declarative hooks and melodies and choruses. The songs are very versatile and dynamic as well, with a variety of different movements and phases, all of which link together quite seamlessly. Like, these guys managed to crap out a mammoth-sized 13-minute power metal opus called Helloween. And it's awesome. And I mean stuff like Eagle Fly Free, I'm Alive, Twilight of the Gods, Dr. Stein, Future World, Twilight of the Gods, I Want Out, the title track Keeper of the Seven Keys, which is also well over 13 minutes long and is totally fucking action-packed. And it never once loses steam. There's no fat, no filler, no duds across both of these albums. I could honestly listen to both back to back Easy fucking peasy. You know what? I started this video saying that I don't have like a #1 all-time favorite power metal album, but fuck it, I changed my mind. The Keeper of the Seven Keys, parts 1 and 2, together, collectively, all-time favorite power metal album. This thing fucks. This thing goes hard. I love it. Next up, we have Follow the Blind, released in April 1989 via No Remorse, Virgin, and Century Media Records. Blind Guardian, much like Helloween, are icons of power metal. I would also go as far as to argue that Blind Guardian probably have a more consistent discography, so much so that there were like quite a few albums that I probably could have thrown in here and there wouldn't be too much issue or objection. But I'm gonna go with Follow the Blind specifically because at my very core, I'm more of a thrash metal guy. Like, that's what I grew up listening to, you know? Like, one of the first albums I ever bought was Master of Puppets from Metallica. And I have, like, fond memories. Staying up late, getting drunk, playing Rock Band, and jamming, like, fucking Anthrax and Megadeth and Slayer and Exodus and shit like that. Back in, like, my final years of high school and college and shit like that. And I love, like, some more modern stuff, like Municipal Waste, Toxic Holocaust, Evil, Early Revocation. I mean, modern feels like a pretty generous term at this point when these bands have been around for close to 15, 20 years now, but fuck it, whatever, you get the idea. At the time, Blind Guardian were listening primarily to thrash metal, specifically to Testament and Forbidden, and a lot of that influence bleeds over into Follow the Blind, and it actually makes for a pretty pummeling experience, I would argue on par with some of the best thrash metal of the late 80s. Hell, in 1989 specifically, I would unironically make an argument that this is one of the better thrash metal albums released in this time. Like, there's a lot of sharp, savage riffage here. I mean, the title track, Follow the Blind, Hail to the King, Banished from Sanctuary, Damned for All Time. It has, like, that really old school kind of, like, thrash metal, extreme metal kind of production and sheen to it as well, while still retaining some of the more epic ideas and concepts of power metal at that time. Now, I'm not gonna lie, if it were up to me, I would probably cut the cover of Barbara Ann from this album entirely, because it's just fucking stupid, and unfortunately I can't just ignore it as like an iTunes exclusive bonus number or something. Like, no, this is in the track listing. It is what officially closes out the album. But I mean, individually, it's not like a horrible number. It's just a bad number to close out this album. And at least because it's the final number, when I'm jamming this on vinyl, I can just pick up the needle and move on to the next album. So, fuck it. The rest of this album is strong enough that, you know, I'm willing to forgive Barbara Ann. Hey, so it occurred to me during the editing process of this fucking thing that the top 10 doesn't have 10 fucking albums, so here we fucking go. If it sounds like I'm tired and I'm pissy, it's because I am. It's far too early in the morning to be doing this shit. Alright, Death for Glory from Running Wild, released in November 1989 via Noise and EMI Records. I think the whole pirate metal trend, subculture, subgenre stuff, it's silly, it's ridiculous, it's goofy, even by power metal standards. But I do make an exception for Running Wild, because the pirate metal thing is more of a visual component, it's more of an aesthetic thing. You know, I don't have motherfuckers going yar har har and doing all this goofy nonsense. Plus, the music itself is extremely consistently well crafted and well produced. Like, everything that Running Wild puts out, especially in the mid to late 80s, is on par with classic heavy metal and early American power metal of the time. And of everything they put out in this era, I would say that this particular album, Death or Glory, is their strongest. Honestly, this is like power metal's equivalent to an album like Master of Puppets or Appetite for Destruction, where I'm just like, this is Riff City population fuck you. I mean, the opening cut alone, Riding the Storm, is an absolute mammoth cut of a song. Tons of rolling, galloping riffs, especially in its very introduction. Some awesome build-up. That chorus is stellar. And of course you have cuts like Highland Glory, Tortuga Bay, The Battle of Waterloo, all action-packed and crammed with, again, the necessary spectacle of power metal and even pirate metal. Honestly, had this album come out in like 2003, or had Pirates of the Caribbean come out in 1989, I promise you would have seen some kind of collaboration, some kind of team-up, because like it just kind of matches the vibe perfectly. Or I don't know, was there like a popular pirate movie in the late 80s? I don't fucking know. My mom is unironically sitting here to my right. Mom, was there any kind of like pirate action movie that was popular in like the late 80s?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
No, like late 80s. Pirates of the Caribbean is 2003.
No.
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 Okay. Never mind, y'all.
What would have been in the late 80s?
That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, no, there wasn't.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry. No.
She's in town. She's from Port Dover. How you doing, Mom?
I'm good. How are you?
How does it feel to finally be on the Metal Meltdown?
I think it's pretty cool.
After watching me swear and drink my guts out from the comfort of your home, now you can do it in person.
I think it's pretty cool. I'm actually very proud of what you've accomplished here.
Well, no need to get like gushy about it. Fucking
no,
hell.
I like it. I think it's cool what you're doing.
Anyways, classic Running Wild, fucking fantastic, but this album especially, Death for Glory, I mean, it's the best of the best. Next up, I guess we're skipping the 90s entirely. Fuck it, I guess. I don't know, because the next album we're talking about is A Flame to the Ground Beneath, the second and final studio album from Lost Horizon, released in June 2003 via Music for Nations. If you were in middle school or high school any time between like the late 2000s and the early 2010s, then you're probably familiar with like the era of like YouTube poops, which means you're probably already familiar with at least one snippet of music and sound and sonic savagery from this album. Specifically a vocal passage taken from Highlander, The One, the album's 10-minute magnum opus, in which lead singer Daniel Herman, or as he prefers to be called on this album, Ethereal Magnanimous, because sure, fuck it, why not, just yells and belts at certain intervals and octaves going up and down in this extremely epic fucking fashion. I remember seeing like Dragon Ball Z edits with this fucking song and shit, and like anime edits online with this, and like this song being inserted into YouTube poops and shit, man. God damn it, telling this story makes me feel old as fuck. Look, the point is, this is how I first came to know Lost Horizon. As a goofy meme band, people use a snippet of the song for goofy fucking anime videos on YouTube and memes and shit, alright? And I remember working at a restaurant, Tukasa, in the mid-2010s. The restaurant doesn't exist anymore, so I'm not worried about y'all looking it up or bugging the crap out of them. And I remember this one cook fucking telling me, like, dude, did you know that's from a fucking album? Like, and he showed me the album, and we would jam it all the time. Like, we'd be making raviolis and cheesecake and shit, listening to this fucking album. And I'm happy to report that outside of memes and my memories of making ravioli and cheesecake, that this album holds up really fucking well. It's dynamic and bright and massive with amazing vocal and guitar work and drum work across the fucking board. Some of the best production I think I've ever seen on a power metal album, honestly. The aforementioned Highlander, The One, the obvious highlight here. It's a fucking incredible, thunderous number. But there's also a lot of great stuff and a surprising amount of, like, introspection to be found in numbers like Cry of a Restless Soul, Pure, Lost in the Depths of Me, Again the Fire Will Burn. I'm not really sure what happened to these guys. They've been inactive and basically dead since 2005, but wherever they are, thank you. You only did 2 albums, but one of them is my all-time favorite power metal albums. And I'm not even a power metal guy, so congrats. Next up, we have Carolus Rex from Sabaton, released in May 2012 via Nuclear Blast Records. And this was probably one of the first power metal albums that I really, 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 really fucking loved. Like, when this came out in 2012, this was my shit. I listened to this all the fucking time. And like 12 years later, I would happily argue this is still an amazing record. It's still Sabaton's best, in my opinion, as well. The concept here, dealing with the rise and the fall of the Swedish Empire, dealing with all the conflicts in this time, dealing with war and religion in Sweden at the time, that's fucking fascinating. That's an incredible idea for a fucking power metal album. Sabaton's unique sound complements this perfectly. Joachim Broden on vocals consistently sounds like a military, like, commander, like a fucking sergeant giving orders to his crew. I love that this album can be really emotive and dramatic and moving when it really wants to. Like, there's some big, like, high spectacle numbers, like the title track, Carolus Rex, which is also one of Sabaton's best cuts ever to this day. Same with A Lifetime of War as well. Sabaton are no strangers to writing these big, epic, destructive ballads about the horrors and consequences of war, but this stands as one of the best. Love The Lion from the North, Poltava as well, Gott mit uns, which has one of their best fucking choruses. I love that they recorded two versions of this album, one entirely in Swedish and one in English, and both are amazing. Yeah, if the Keeper of the Seven Keys albums are sharing the fucking gold medal, then I think Carolus Rex gets the silver medal. This is a fucking fantastic record. Next up, we have The Devil's Cut from White Wizard, released in June 2013 via Earache Records. It should not be surprising to see this pop up. I've talked about this album quite a few times over the years. Why is that? Because it's fucking awesome. This is also another album where maybe I'm kind of cheating, because this is probably closer to being like a trad metal, speed metal record than it is a full-blown power metal record, but power metal is very much a part of this album's musical stew. It's definitely one of the ingredients and influences thrown in, and it's prominent, and it's great, and once again, my list, my rules, cry about it. Regardless of what sub-genre you want to cram this little fucking thing into, The Devil's Cut is awesome. And this was a real, like, lightning in a bottle moment for White Wizard, because frankly, nothing they were doing beforehand was that interesting, nothing they did after this album was that interesting, and almost everyone who is on this album is off in other projects aside from bassist John DeLeon. Apologies, his name is John Leon, not John DeLeon. I don't know where the fuck I got that name from. Look, the point is, this was a lightning in a bottle moment for White Wizard. What is captured on this album simply cannot and will not be captured again. And I think that makes this all the more special. Like, this was made with all the right people, in all the right circumstances, and everyone's playing their fucking hearts out, and it's just fucking amazing. Like, Strike the Iron, Kings of the Highway, Lightning in My Hands, all thunderous, epic, catchy, powerful, trad, heavy, speed, power metal shit. Joseph Michael on lead vocals is absolutely killing it here. He's done some great stuff since with Witherfall, also featuring another White Wizard bandmate, but in my opinion, this is still where he's at his best vocally. Love the way this record is produced too. Like, it has a really thin, skeletal kind of sound, but it pushes everything to the forefront, and it makes everything, like, massive and sound very in your face. 11 years later, this thing honestly still floors me. Like, it's just an expertly, masterfully written and produced and crafted record. Fuck it, this is sharing the silver medal with Carolus Rex. Fuck it! And finally, let's start wrapping things up with Abyss from Unleash the Archers, released in August 2020 via Napalm Records. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I honestly thought that the moment I said Unleash the Archers, Mad Mike was like gonna pop up out of the ground, like he was just gonna appear in the room. He'd open a fucking portal and walk through it like in a fucking Avengers Endgame or some shit. Y'all know me by now. Y'all know I can't resist throwing in some fucking Canadian metal. Y'all know I can't resist talking about some glorious metal from my neck of the woods. But in my defense, there's valid reason to bring up Unleash the Archers. They've frankly been one of the best power metal bands out there right now. So much so that it was genuinely difficult to decide which of their albums I would include in here today. I mean, hell, considering Apex and Abyss were originally planned as a double album, I could probably pull a Keepers of the Seven Key kind of move and just go, fuck it, they're both here. I'm not gonna do that because these albums were released like 3 years apart, and frankly, of the two, I think Abyss is a much more adventurous record. It's bigger, it's bolder, it's more dynamic, it's more imaginative, it's more epic. It expands on the narrative of Apex and a lot of those musical elements and components. And it also puts a lot more into the production of this record. Like, there's more synths and everything is like bolder and shinier and prettier. There's some pretty jaw-droppingly beautiful and fucking awesome material on here. I mean, the title track Abyss, Soulbound, Return to Me, Legacy, Carry the Flame, Afterlife, like, it's consistently fucking amazing. Beautiful, shimmering, soaring guitar work, amazing synth work, amazing string work. And yeah, let's just be honest here, Brittany Slayes on lead vocals, god fucking damn it, one of the best heavy metal, power metal singers out there right now. I love that we get like a few sprinkles of like a melodeath here and there. Like, that kind of adds the intensity, that kind of adds this really brutal component to it at times. Just extremely well done. I know Unleash the Archers are working on another album that'll probably be released, I would hope, by the end of this year, and if that's the case, then quite frankly, I already know what the best power metal album of 2024 is going to be. Straight the fuck up. And voila, my top 10 all-time favorite power metal albums. Now the Metal Meltdown will return to almost never talking about power metal. Mwahaha! Now it's your turn to tell me, what are some of your favorite all-time favorite power metal albums and bands and projects and such? Let me know in the comments below, please and thank you. Press this button right here to subscribe if you have not done so already. Look, there's even more videos here! And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.